Okay, good afternoon guys. So it is December 2024, finally. And I wanted to put a video out there about wild camping for beginners. But who am I to give this advice? There are a lot of people out there that have been doing this a lot longer, and that is precisely why I'm doing this video. I've had something to do with the outdoors for a very, very long time, but wild camping, probably only 6 months. And that's the reason why I want to do the video, because a lot has changed since some of the people out there started this 10 to 20 years ago. What is wild camping currently like, and what has the first 6 months of my journey looked like? So I'm out today doing a wild camp. I'm going to run you guys through some of the things that I found when I started it, some of the gear I use, some of the mistakes I've made, and also I'm going to get out and get camped up for the night. So it is the middle of Storm Darragh. Have to be super careful today, not take any risks. So I'm going to get out, scout a decent place to wild camp and start setting up camp. I was out in Storm Bert, hammock camping, but the winds are significantly more in Storm Darragh. Therefore I'm staying away from trees. I might need a couple to put up a tarp, or I might use my walking poles, but I'm going to have a little look about, scout and find a location that suits. So I'm actually struggling to find a setup that I think is going to be safe. I found a couple of areas, but the trees have just seemed a bit dodgy, and the wind is low now, but apparently it's going to kick up later on. Okay, so I think I have found my spot. It is nice and flat round here, really soft ground. That way is northwest, and that is where the winds are due to come from later on. I'm going to do my best to utilise some of the natural vegetation as a bit of a windshield, potentially maybe around this area here. Find a nice flat spot, use natural vegetation as a windshield, and I'm pretty happy. So it's time to set up camp. Okay, time to get set up. Let's do this quickly before the rain comes in. Stay away, Storm Darragh. So I work for an organisation called Challenger Troop. We work with young people, all different types of young people, from in schools to children that have been going through a very difficult time or in care. And what I'm doing now, we do a lot of this with the kids to try and teach and show resilience, that being outdoors and not on your Xbox can have huge benefits, and I really feel it does. So I had a very well paid job in the city, bonuses, P&Ls, pressure. I had, life wasn't terrible at all, to be honest. The only issue is when I started not enjoying what I did, because I have always been a person that says if you do not enjoy what you do when you wake up in the morning, then you need to do something else. Working for Challenger Troop, brilliant. The company itself has worked with over 70,000 children, helping kids build that resilience, respect, discipline, self-discipline especially. Let's get the axe out. So this is some of the gear you can see that I'm using. So when starting wild camping, you're going to have a lot of decisions to make, and most importantly, what you're going to stay in. What's your shelter? Is it going to be a bivvy close to nature? Is it going to be a tent? Are you going to go hammock camping, or are you going to try everything like me? So this is the OEX Flux 7R, which is rated to 7.2, very, very comfortable and ridiculously warm. Now I picked this up in Go Outdoors for about £60, and I can't understand it, because all of the other ones that are rated to around 7.2, ultra light and tick all those boxes, the best part of £150–200. This is my first decent sleeping pad. My first one was like a Vango thing that I think after the third time using it, it just wouldn't hold. So we upgraded, and to accompany it here, I have a flex tail. Now, this is brand new. I have not used this before. All the links to this stuff I'll put in the description. But this flex tail, one, is going to pump up this mat. So let's pump up the mat, but that's not its only trick. I'll get it pumped up first. Put in this valve, make sure it's in properly. Pop this out, flex tail gear, pump. I don't know which one it is. I know it's a good one. And let's see if we can turn her on. 2 clicks. Fantastic. She's all pumped up. The OEX Flux 7R. But what's great about this, and what I absolutely love, there's a little hook here, and then we can have a light, which is amazing because it's so much smaller. And we can dim the light if I hold the button. Little flash, and then it's on a low light. Hold the button down. Bright light, big flash. Absolutely love it. So happy to, 1, save space by not having to carry a separate lantern and a pump, and 2, the battery lasts forever. It's a real nice light. Proper looking forward to this tonight. Cheap blow up pillow from Go Outdoors. I had a fancy Trekology one, but honestly, quite like that one. Next, for the sleeping bag I use, and it is the good old fashioned British military Arctic sleeping bag, because I feel when you combine this sleeping bag with a sleeping pad rated around 7, you're not getting cold. I mean, I've not been out in -10, but I've been out in 0 and I've been absolutely toasty. Now, I had been to Go Outdoors and bought the £70 4-season rated, blah, blah, blah. And unfortunately, in my experience, they are full of rubbish. They are not rated to what they say they are. Not in my experience. Now, that's not to say this is going to be the sleeping bag I'm going to use forever, because I do intend on getting a Raab down sleeping bag. But for the minute, I'm absolutely toasty. An additional pillow, about £5. All I need. This is soft. Sometimes not being blow up is just a little bit nicer. And most importantly, we have our bedtime stuff. So in here, I've got some British military long johns with a thermal top, some merino wool socks. For me, those in here, you're good to go. And I've got room to stuff my Bergen at the end there, looking good. Next very, very important thing would be my little cook setup. So this is new because I saw Paul Messner using a flip out table that looked really cool. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't find the one he was using. This isn't as cool as his. However, this was dirt cheap, very light, and I thought packs away really well. Nice little aluminium table there. I am using, again, this is the British military BCB cook system. So I have the bottom basket that acts as a wind protector and goes over like so. I have the Crusader mug, absolute robust bit of kit here, whether you just want to chuck it on the fire or sit it in your cook system like so. There's a British military water bottle and the cup that sits over like so. So this all folds down into quite a compact little arrangement. With the British military cook system like this, the BCB, you can buy a Trangia alcohol stove. Now these are only, I'll definitely put a link for these are like £12 and I found them to be absolutely phenomenal. Nice and simple. You've got your lid there which also acts as, you can control the temperature of the burn by putting it back over and closing or opening the flame. And then it is a simple screw top, a little rubber seal, and you just pour your meths in there. Pour your meths or whatever you're using to burn. And the best thing about the Trangia is it's almost like it was made to fit in the bottom of the British military BCB basket, because there is a little cut out there and it just pushes in. Flip that over, get your fire going, get your mug on top, boil your water, cook your food in it, whatever you need to do. These little silicone mugs are great, £3. go outdoors, happy days. And always carry with me a sponge and a bit to do a bit of cleaning. I did have a spork, but last time I was out, I was eating my meal and I thought that's a bit hard. And it turns out I'd eaten 2 of the prongs off the spork. So I'm just bringing with me a nice simple cutlery set there. There you go. There's the spork that I ate 2 of the prongs from. I have also got an additional shield here. So if you want to shield a little bit more from the wind, we are expecting a storm here. I have a little H&S, I think it was like £5–6 off of Amazon, little perfect little windshield, and I can feel the rain coming in. We are having steak for dinner. I'm going to use my Trangia fuel burner with the BCB cook system. Well, like the bottom bucket. I found this little frying pan thing. I haven't even tried it on there yet. For me, looks good. A little bit of oil, and I've got a steak. So let's see if the Trangia alcohol stove can get a pan hot enough to cook a rump steak. We might have to eat it straight from the pan. A little bit of olive oil. And I keep seeing a lot of wild campers go out with this stuff. Aromat. Never used it in my life, by Knorr. But it is a savoury seasoning. Is this pan going to get hot enough? Let the steak breathe. Let's drop the steak in. Right, now we're cooking just a bit on the breezy side. We're going to try some of this seasoning. Woo! Now we're cooking on gas. So wild camping for me, it's not just about camping. It's not just about the tent or the outdoors. It's all about what it does for me up here. Everything I do when I'm wild camping, it takes time. Just cooking this steak is a lot more difficult than indoors. It requires more thought. It takes a lot longer. I'm sitting here watching it, making a cup of tea. Coffee takes a lot longer, requires preparation and planning and time. Everything seems to move slower when you're out here. For me, it really is that mental aspect. Wild camping for me is really just giving me some extra time in life for just my brain to push a reset button. Maybe working on breathing exercises. It gives me time to meditate, read a book. Huge benefits to my mental health, which in turn benefits the people around me, my family, my kids. So my advice for anyone who wanted to start wild camping or camping in general is probably start with a tent. Tried, tested, probably the most common way. If you're thinking of getting a 1-man tent, get a 2-man tent. If there's 2 of you, get a 3-man tent. There's nothing worse than camping and not getting a good night's sleep, so concentrate on your sleep system. Don't buy a £30 2-season sleeping bag with no sleep mat. Go out in the winter and expect to have a good night's sleep. It's just not going to happen. Once you've concentrated on your sleeping system and you've got your tent of choice, sounds silly, but I'd recommend going somewhere you know. Jumping straight out wild camping can be a little bit scary, a little bit ominous. If you've never done it before, that first night, especially if you're on your own, I think it's going to be better to be somewhere closer to home and somewhere you know. Or even do it in your back garden. But here I am, happily cooking away a steak in the wild on a £12 Trangia alcohol burner. It's simple and it works. This is definitely proving that you can cook a steak on a little Trangia burner. Then there's all your extra little bits. What sort of knife are you going to take? A knife, I use this little Victorinox Spartan knife pretty much every single day. Power banks, you need to be charging your gear. And a real big one is clothing. Army surplus shops, if you haven't got the money to go and spend an absolute fortune, is such an easy and affordable way of getting started. Oh my God. You're also going to need to understand that layers are key. And especially at night. Cold feet, cold in bed, not good. You need to start looking into base layers, mid layers, top layers, and waterproofs. how are you going to feel if you need to go to the toilet out in the wild? Because it will happen. Okay, so it's 10:15. I'm done. Washed, warm, in the sleeping bag, and ready to get my head down. So I'll see you in the morning. So good morning. Last night was a real nice camp. Chance to be outdoors, be at one with nature, whether you go on your own or with a friend. So I've got my porridge, well, my water boiling, ready for my Quaker banana porridge this morning. So gonna get 2 sachets of this down me, lovely stuff, really tastes banana-y. And I've already got my Nescafe caramel coffee. Really good tip is I use a dry bag for storing my night clothes. Now in here, my merino socks, my military long johns, and a thermal top. But when I put this gear on at night, I put this gear in this bag and then leave it in the bottom of the footwell of the sleeping bag. So when I do come to having a wash and then getting my gear back on, it's warm. Because once you get cold, it's really hard to warm up. For those of you who haven't seen me before on YouTube doing this kind of thing, it's a brand new channel, it's a few weeks old, seems to be going really well, and already over 500 subscribers. So if that's one of you, I massively appreciate that. To have grown so quickly in the first few weeks is, yeah, it blows my mind. If you haven't subscribed, I hate videos that say, do us a favour, hit the subscribe button and the bell and the notifications. It drives me mad, and I never do it. So I'm not going to ask, but it's free. If you think I've got anything wrong, let me know in the comments below. And there's also a million questions that I may not have answered or covered off in this topic. So again, if you've got a question, leave it below and either I'll reply or someone else in the comments that hopefully knows a bit about wild camping may do so.